Alright, let's see if we can make just a quick video talking briefly about this observation of Miles Davis. It's a great observation, very simple point being made, that it's not possible on a flat plane due to the fact that the camera is at the same height as the tower of the bridge here, and the hills in the background are much higher than that, and due to the laws of perspective, if the camera is at the same height as that bridge tower, anything higher than it should appear above that point, even though it's reducing in angular size as it goes towards the rear. And Miles made a brilliant demonstration to explain how this works with these soda cans. You get cans right up in front of the camera here, take their massive angular size, and then as they go away down to the hallway, much smaller angular size, but due to the eye level being correct, none of these are lower below the red line. A simple point, but unfortunately, because flat earthers don't like people challenging their fantasy, but they're incapable of actually providing proper real world proof or evidence to rebut evidence like this, they've taken to making accusations that Miles is lying or using some kind of deceptive technique. And that kind of made me make this short video earlier on my mobile phone, doing much the same as what Miles has done with the cans, really, but it's more to address the recent bout of complaints that are being made towards Miles. So I'll just play that video. You'll need to excuse the sound quality because it was just on my phone. Okay, so Miles Davis's observation at Traprain Law has caused a lot of flat earth butthurt, and in their desperation they're scrabbling around trying to find ways to make it seem as though there must be something wrong with the observation, but none of them have actually successfully either repeated it or properly made an attempt to debunk it. They've merely accused Miles of some kind of deception, and the latest claim comes from Dell and has been leapt upon by a few other people. And of course, as is always the case, all we're really seeing here is that Dell doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, and neither do any of the people that follow him. So the basic claim is that it's because the hills in the bridge are at the lower portion of the image, it means the centre of the camera must be pointing slightly upward. Therefore, that somehow fakes what is being seen by lowering the background object below the foreground object, which is just complete ignorance of how things work. So, here's a quick demo, and we'll do it vertically and horizontally, just to prove the point. So, I've got a box in the foreground, two of the same boxes stacked on top of each other in the background. The distance from me to the first box and the distance from that box to the two boxes at the back is the same distance. So this roughly matches the setup with Miles. And I've got the boxes roughly lined up in the centre of the frame at the moment. So what happens if I tilt the camera? If I tilt it down, can we see more? No. If I tilt it up to match what's happening with Miles's photograph, where the objects are lower in the frame, does that make the boxes in the back disappear? Or lower down? No, we can still see the same. The only way to induce actual parallax, where the relative positions of these boxes will change, is to change the actual elevation of the camera, like so. Now you see that the foreground object appears to lower, which has the effect of making it seem as though the background object is raising up, and of course if you did the opposite, and lower the camera, that will bring the foreground object up. And if I could go through my floor, then I would be able to replicate what Miles is seeing. But that is kind of the point of Miles's observation, that the fact that the background object is much lower than the foreground object is a problem when the camera is at the same level as the foreground object. That is impossible on a flat plane. Now, as far as parallax goes, it works in any direction, so if we slide the camera to the left, you see they get the same effect on the horizontal as we did by raising the camera and lowering it. Same thing applies if I tilt the camera left and right. You don't see any parallax on the horizontal. So again, tilting versus actual change in the position of the camera.
Right, we'll stop it there. And yes, my floors do need cleaned. That's for tomorrow. Anyway, I've got a couple of pictures as well. Okay, so just a couple of photographs of the same thing, with the box centered, the camera tilted down, the camera tilted up as it is in Miles' photograph, and then a comparison to what it's like to actually change the height of the camera. This is how it works. All that's happening when you tilt your camera is you're changing the point at which the light is hitting the lens, but the actual image itself, that doesn't change. Obviously you'll see more above because you're looking up there and less down below, but the actual object will only move to either a higher or lower position within the frame. The spatial relationship between objects in real life cannot change just because you've tilted the camera lens. Now, when I was doing this video earlier, I also became aware that Rory, who ironically calls himself My Perspective, a guy who doesn't have the first clue about perspective and geometry and yet just churns out video after video with these terrible off-scale CGI animations where he constantly makes all these claims about perspective and geometry that are always wrong. You know, he's done the same thing for Miles' observation. So yeah, I want to take a quick look at Rory's video. Just the beginning is enough. We don't need to see the whole video to see what Rory's really all about.
So let's have a look at the issue. If I have a horizon line, I have a plumb line by the horizon, I have a lighthouse, right? The horizon plumb line is double the height of the lighthouse, right? And I have a camera. From this point, right, the camera is in line with the lighthouse. If I move that horizon line backward, well, now it's all in a line. Now we know the horizon line is higher than the camera and the lighthouse. But in this image here, in this animation, it's in a line. Well, that's perspective. The further away things are, the smaller they are. It doesn't mean that the Earth is curved. I've got three lines in line of sight. The horizon line, the lighthouse, and the camera height.
Alright, so some of you may have already spotted the problem with what Rory's done here. But he moves around, you know, he moves the camera around a bit, puts it at funny angles. It might not be easy for everybody to spot, but just put this back. Right, so put it back, watch it again, and when it gets to the crucial point, I'll maybe slow it down a bit as well.
Sneaky, right? So let's have a look at the issue. If I have a horizon line, I have a plumb line by the horizon, I have a lighthouse.
Alright, so let me just change the settings, change the speed a bit. So these grid lines will help us to identify whether perspective is being followed properly or not. If I just put it back a little bit,
a horizon line. I have a plumb.
Okay, so if you look at anything that's moving towards and away from the camera, it should stay within its grid lines. So if we watch when it moves the red horizon,
I have a lighthouse.
you see that stays within
the horizon plumb line.
And if we watch the lighthouse when it comes forward, stays within these two grids. So it's growing in angular size or shrinking in angular size when it's moving away, but it stays within the bounds of the grid lines because it's following perspective. Now look at the rear horizon, the one he's going to use to make the main point. The lettering here, the O, is more over into this row here with the R in here, and the H just bordering over this line. And the ends of the baseline are, you can't even see them.
Double the height of the lighthouse.
Now that we can see the ends of the line, and if you watch the lettering as it moves back, what you'll see is that as well as moving it back, Rory has actually shrunk the whole thing in size, because this arrow should stay following whatever line it's on, as should this one. The lettering should stay at the same place and just follow the same line back in the same position in the grid. Now watch.
I can have a camera.
You see that the arrow came right across the grid lines and came into a different point. The lettering has shrunk. The O is now well into here when it should be over here. The H is right up to this line when it should be over here. Just put that back. You can see it again. Just the lettering makes it easy, or you can watch one of these arrows at the end and see how many grids it passes over.
As in, I have a lighthouse, right? The horizon plumb line is double the height of the lighthouse. Right, and I have a camera.
So as you can see, Rory has employed deception. He has reduced the size of this higher horizon marker in order to deceive people into believing that when it moves back, it will be in line with the foreground due to perspective alone.
This point, right.
But it isn't perspective alone. He's changed the scale of it. Then I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to look at the rest of his video. But a bit later on in the video, Rory is, does his usual preaching and leaves a little message of warning, and I think, based on what we've just seen, it's pretty appropriate.
The day will come when we all have to answer for what we've done and how we've used our lives, and whether we've used our lives to deceive people. We're going to answer to the Creator one day for this.
Yeah, Rory, if you really believe that, you're screwed, buddy. So that was it really. Dell has wasted hours and hours of time getting himself all upset about what Miles has done, and his entire complaint revolves around the idea of tilting the camera, somehow making this parallax occur, which is just complete bullshit. Miles really has already covered it. The other thing that is a part of that is his actual elevation now. He doesn't have absolutely precise data, but he does have video showing his location. He shows the trig point that he's next to, so that identifies the fact that he is practically up at the summit of Traprain Law. And with a known height, that gives us a margin of error, if you like, with just how high he might be. He's certainly not down low, and in order to create that kind of parallax through elevation, through moving the height of the camera, not by tilting it, Miles would have to be really low down In fact, I believe other people have already modelled this out or worked it out, and he would have to be in a hole in the ground or something like that. But even if that wasn't the case, if he had to be, 100 metres lower or something like that, this isn't what's happening, because we can see from Miles' own video where he shows his location that he is almost at the summit of Traprain Law. So that complaint cannot stand. Now, while I was uploading some of the files that I needed onto my laptop from my phone, I've also discovered that Dell made a video. Now, I don't generally watch Dell's videos anymore, but out of curiosity I had to skip through. Let me just get that one up. So this was the part of Dell's video that particularly caught my eye, was that he had tried to do a demonstration. And we've seen what has to be done to create this kind of parallax. By changing the elevation of the camera, Miles must have to be, much, much lower, as we've said. And we know he wasn't, because we've got the video of him standing at the top of Traprain Law and walking over and showing his cameras on the tripods and so on. So this isn't an issue. And Dell's entire argument for the last couple of days, when he's been screaming and shouting, has always been about the way that the camera is pointing, just because it was up or down, tilted up or down, angled up or down. It's been the entire core of what he's been trying to say. Now watch what Dell does. Like Rory, he has to fake his results.
So what I'm doing now, this is to show how it should look if everything is going to be lined up perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a marker here.
Come back to that. Okay.
Or just recreating the fakery again. So as you can see, distance projects are much from, the longest, the tallest one. So we'll make that just to show. We'll put these ones which are slightly shorter.
Sorry for letting
But
this run so
still,
long.
these ones are still taller.
The fact that he was skipping through and whatever.
Or just
Bear with me, I need to find this one here.
It's twice of the foot. The back show. And these ones recreate because the second lie.
So, here we are. Okay. So this is exactly the way Miles Davis has showed you his image. Right? So
you see that Dell has to lie and cheat to get to his point across. He's been talking all this time about tilting the camera, and now, in order to try and make this accusation at Miles again with an actual demonstration, what does he do? He drops his camera below the level of the table. So obviously he's somehow, he's changed his argument, but he's also now trying to say that Miles must have been physically lower down Traprain Law. And as we've just pointed out, and anybody can go and see from Miles's video, he is only a few metres below the summit, because he shows a video of him at that point, just a few metres below the trig point, with the ponies, etc. It shows the cameras set up in the tripod, the lot. So we know he's at least somewhere in the region of 200 metres. He says he's at 210, Traprain Law is about 220 or something like that. So there's no way, based on what is seen in that video, that Miles is going to be any less than about 200 metres high. But in order for Dell's accusation to be true, he would have to either be, as I said, maybe 100 metres down or right down in the ground. As I say, somebody has worked out the figures. I think Miles has actually done a similar thing himself by now. And he would have to be in a hole in the ground to get the same effect due to the relative sizes. You need to remember that it's easy to show these kind of effects in very small scale demos like this, especially if the objects aren't scaled and you're closer to them and all that kind of stuff. The distances involved matter, the sizes involved matter. But all that's besides the point, really, to be honest. See what matters at the end of the day? The point is that Dell's had to fake this demo. He's had to move below the level of the table and then build a straw man against Miles Davis. This has got no reflection whatsoever on what Miles actually showed in his video. So we've got two people who are fairly high profile and followed by all the dotards in Flat Earth, who the only response they've got to Miles Davis, who has done a simple, straightforward, geometric demonstration that shows not a claim that the Earth is a globe, but that the Earth cannot be flat. And his simple challenge was to demonstrate how this could be shown on a flat Earth. And so far, nobody has achieved this challenge at all. This is what they've got to resort to because their beliefs are threatened. They can't have someone taking away the thing that they live for. And because they can't produce real world evidence, they have to resort to slander, abuse, cheating, lying, deception. Well, they level all these accusations at Miles himself. It's these guys that are guilty of it. So, yeah, I'm rambling on about it, but I'm sick of seeing what a bunch of liars and losers these people are, to be honest. And I thought, for anybody that hasn't seen these individual little clips by Rory or by Dell here, it might be worth throwing everything together in one place. And Miles is so busy putting out so many videos these days and dealing with so much of the stupid things that people are saying to him, I thought it also might be worth having a shot myself. Had to stop, cut a bit out there, phone call. So anyway, the point is, I know I'm rambling on a bit at this point, but the main thing was just to highlight the deception and really the way these guys are behaving. It's not just despicable, it's laughable that these are grown men that they really don't understand how any of these things work, but they want to sell themselves as experts on everything. They lie to people, they attack people with horrible abuse. Unfounded accusations are being levelled at Miles constantly, and that's all they've got. All they can do is react emotionally because it's a psychological issue they've got. It's got nothing to do with real world evidence, it's got nothing to do with truth, because if it was about the real world, we would be seeing someone either properly demonstrating how the geometry really works on a flat plane, and somehow the thing that you see in Miles's photograph can be done that way, or more importantly, someone would go up to Traprain Law and repeat the observation and show that something was off. And that's never going to happen. If somebody ever does go up there from the flat earth side and make the observation, they'll either cock it up like they usually do, they'll go up there when there's crap weather and make some other excuse up, or they'll find out that it's impossible to do that observation and get anything different from what Miles has got, and that will kill their dream. And you probably won't hear about it. Anyway, just thought I'd highlight the usual hypocrisy and lies and deception that comes from the flat earthers. Nice one, Miles. Keep up the good work.